All right, so this question keeps popping up, guys, and I'm going to describe this as best as I can to you, give you my opinion on it. And it's going to vary from state to state, county to county. What applies here may be different, 15 minutes from here. It's going to vary on your area. So, do deer have enough food in the spring and summer? Because, a lot of people are asking if there's food in the spring and summer, spring green up, you have all this browse, do I really need to plant a food plot? And I'm going to describe this to you. Hopefully break it down, you understand it, and give you my thoughts on it. Number one is 25 to 30 deer. What I mean by that, 35 years ago, they did a study across the states, and it was Maryland, a couple different other states as well. They determined that per square mile, on average, that square mile could hold 25 to 30 deer, to where that could provide enough food for those deer, 25 to 30 deer, to maintain their body weight. Not improve their body weight or have an abundance of food. It was enough food to maintain their health and body weight to where they weren't on the decline. When you have too many deer per square mile, you have a browse line. If you walk in the woods, a deer's height, whatever it is, as high as they can reach, you can see through there. There's no food at the ground because the deer consumed it. There's too many deer per square mile, not enough food, and you'll see that deer on the decline. Happens all the time in different areas. Like I said, Midwest is going to be, completely different than where I'm at. Parts of Ohio where you have farm, ag country, hedgerows, where you have enough sun hitting the ground to create that fresh growth and have enough food for the deer. And they determined this 25, 30 years ago. Well, how do you determine that? Well, whatever they did, it was just an average, 25 to 30 deer per square mile. So think about that on your land, in the area that you hunt. Look for a browse line. If that browse line's there, they don't have enough food. So you have enough, you can talk to your neighbors and, thin the deer out some, do some habitat work, increase that food, and then you can start to have enough food to where you can increase that deer's health. Number two is 4 to 8 pounds of food per deer consume. 4 to 8 pounds of food per day. Times that by how many deer you have in the area, times it by per day, per week, per month, per year. It's a lot of food. 4 to 8 pounds. As the deer gets older, the more food they consume. Younger deer, yearlings, fawns, they don't need as much. But as the deer gets older, so you have more mature deer in your area, the more food that they're going to need. And whatever that food is, briars, bushes, fruit trees, if we supplement, their diet with food plots, because food plots are supplemental, you can add that into their, requirements, per day. They need a variety of food. They're not just going to eat one thing. You got acorns and soft mass, hard mass. All this varies in different areas. So if you're in an area that has lots of oaks dropping acorns, that is a short-term food source to where they only might get food from a month or two tops, through the acorns. So you have to have a variety of food for that deer to have enough to either maintain their body or increase their body weight. Number three is closed canopy. Lots of areas, like I said, depending where you go, lots of areas are going to be a closed canopy forest. It's just massively thick, just continuous woods where there's no sunlight hitting the ground. When this happens, you have zero food at ground level. When that happens, the deer lack food, and it's not a good thing because you can easily tell in the deer herd whether they have enough food just by looking at them. And I'll just get to that here in a second. But closed canopy, you have no food. When you get out into farm country, ag areas, parts of Ohio, Kentucky, wherever it is, you have hedgerows. You have manicured crops from the farmers. When you get those open areas like that, you have enough sun to hit the ground to create food. That's what deer need, and that's what they consume in the spring and summer. And depending if you have woody browse and such, they're going to consume that in the fall and in the wintertime when all the green growth is actually gone. Number four, poorest deer herd. Now I write that on there because in Maryland, 25 years ago, they determined in Allegheny County, Maryland, it had the poorest deer herd in Maryland. Why was that? They looked at the food value, how many deer there were per square mile, and soil health. They determined that in that area, the soil was the poorest in Maryland. They had the poorest soil. When you have the poorest soil, that soil can't give the nutrients to the plants that the deer consume. They also determined there was lack of food, lack of browse, because it's lots of hardwoods and closed canopy forest. There was no sun hitting the ground. They could easily tell in the deer. If you drive through there, out western Maryland, you'll be able to tell that in most areas the deer are very poor because the soil is bad, they have no food, and they lack food to either maintain their body weight and even increase their body weight. It's not there. So they're steadily on the decline because there's no food. Number 5, can we actually help? Do deer have enough food in the spring and summer to, maintain their body weight? Well, it's going to vary. And can we actually help? Well, you have to remember back to number 2 is deer consume 4 to 8 pounds of food per day. So if you're planting, I wrote over here a 1/4 acre, but that's probably average on what food plotters plant, a 1/4 acre. If you're in an area where it's just massive amounts of woods, there's no food, you have browse lines because the sun's not hitting the ground, or you have too many deer. If you determine that in the spring and summer you want to plant a 1/4 to an 1/8 acre food plot, is that really going to help the deer herd? Probably not. Is it going to hurt? No. It's going to supply a little bit of food for them to get them along, but it's not going to improve the health of the herd to where they can maintain. It might help them maintain, but it's not going to get them past that point to where they start improving their health. So you have to look at it as, at that point, is it really worth my effort to plant a 1/4 acre food plot to try to feed that deer? If you're planting a 1/4 acre or 1/8 acre clover plot because you think clover, the deer are going to consume this clover, I'm helping the deer. Well, is it really going to help? Nobody, it's not going to hurt. So, but don't get don't get too excited thinking that if you're planting a 1/4 acre food plot, you're all of a sudden going to grow these monster deer, you're going to increase the weight on the deer. It's just not reality. It's a wild animal. The deer's not going to feed there all the time. It's going to roam. It's going to, go to different areas, and it's not going to sit there and consume clover. They eat a variety of food. So you have to realize that when you go to do this stuff is it takes a lot of food, a lot of time, a lot of patience, herd management, and good soil to actually increase the deer's health and create bigger deer. Number 6, how can you tell? So when you go into an area, like I mentioned earlier, if you see that browse line, there's not enough food, guys. You have too many deer per square mile, and there's not enough food. And another way to easily tell is look at the deer. If their ribs are showing, they are hungry. When I got my property, one of my properties 5 years ago, the deer were eating pine needles off the trees because they're starving. There was zero food. They were unhealthy. I could tell this. And I was fine with that because I knew with my practices and food plots and different habitat, work, I could improve this scenario. And I did. Over 5 years, the ribs went away. They stopped showing. They gained body weight. They had bigger deer, healthier looking deer, and I increased the herd in that area. And it's all through work, and it wasn't easy. You can't just dump some corn out or dump a mineral block out on the ground and think you're growing these deer. It just doesn't happen that way. It takes lots of work, lots of food, lots of soil improvements, lots of creating extra browse and everything to actually see those improvements, because you have to remember it is a wild, free-ranging deer. That deer is going to, has a home range or whatever it is, buck does, they're going to roam. They're not staying on your property to where they're just consuming your food. I mean, they have to have a variety of food. They may go to your neighbors. They may go here. They may go here. They may go over there. And it's just hard work to actually see those improvements. It takes hard work, determination, dedication, and year after year of doing improvements to see it. You're not going to see it in the first year. You may not see it in the second year. if you do a lot of work, create extra food, high quality food, you will see the improvements. Number 7, low food value. And what I mean by that is, in your area, what kind of browse do you have? Is it low quality? Is it high quality? And that's going to determine how the deer get nutrients from the food. If the food is low value, you're going to have a low value deer. If the food is high value, you're going to have high value deer. You know, I seen a post the other day where a guy had a recommendation on social media that his property had honeysuckle on it, and he was told to eliminate all the honeysuckle. And he did that, and then 2 years later, he saw less deer and less quality deer. And the reason behind that is deer eat honeysuckle. You just took away the deer's food, birds, all this food that the honeysuckle creates, you just took away. Now, is a property full of honeysuckle, the entire property honeysuckle, is it a beneficial thing? No, because you need a variety of food. So if you 100% eliminate your honeysuckle, you're doing your property a disservice, because yeah, honeysuckle may be, you know, not that high on the food value list, but it's food, it's tonnage. You just eliminated all that tonnage off your property because of bad advice. And do I want a property full of honeysuckle, the entire, you know, square foot of that property, you know, in honeysuckle? No, I'm going to eliminate some, get rid of some, but still have it, because deer consume it, especially in a time of need during, you know, the winter months. They will consume honeysuckle. I've seen it. They love it. It's very palatable to the deer. Do not eliminate your entire property of honeysuckle. Number 8, okay, this goes back to, do deer have enough food? And is it pointless to plant spring and summer food plots? And in my opinion, the answer is no. It's not stupid, and you're only going to help. Like I said, if you're planting an eighth to a quarter acre, you're going to see minimum results. But into the guys that are actually planting legit food plots, they're taking the time, improving the soil, because improving the soil, remember, goes back to the poorest deer herd in Maryland. They determined that the soil was the poorest in the area, which leads to poor health deer. So if you're taking the time and you're improving the soil to where that soil is so beneficial, it's giving all those nutrients to the plant, which then the deer eat, the plants give it to the deer. They consume that, it improves their health. When you get into planting, you know, 5 acres or a half acre, 1 acre, 2 acres, 3 acres, 4 acres, 5 acres of food plots, of supplemental food, of tonnage per acre, you increase the health of the herd through the soil. And the soil gives it to the plants, plants give it to the deer. That's when you start seeing improvements, where the guys that are actually taking, you know, select cuts, increasing the browse value tonnage per acre, and supplemental feeding them with food plots, you help. In an area that just has browse, okay? Most browse is low value most times. And whatever it may be, 8%, 10% protein, you get ragweed, it could be up to 14, 15%, you know, protein. That's good. That's a very good thing. But to say that across the board, planting spring and summer food plots is completely pointless, a waste of time, is just wrong. You can improve the health of the herd. So what's better? Letting deer consume, you know, 5% protein of, you know, whatever it is, forages and grasses, and, you know, and poison ivy. I think poison ivy may be like 8% protein. Or planting 5 acres in a manicured soil, a manicured crop of supplemental tonnage per acre of 15, 18, 20% protein. They're getting all the nutrients and the minerals and the micronutrients out of that soil, given to the plant, given to the deer. How's that silly? You can improve it. I just described taking an area that so-called had enough food per deer, but yet their ribs are showing and they're completely unhealthy, and then you increase the food value through spring and summer food plots and fall food plots, and then all of a sudden the ribs stop showing, the deer look healthier, you get more deer, you get better looking deer overall. So it's not silly, guys. If you want to plant spring and summer, and also I can jump into this, what's the alternative? To where you have soil that you want to plant a fall food plot in because you're scared to plant a spring or summer food plot. What's the alternative? Just to have bare soil? You're not improving the soil. So you're saying, oh, I have good soil, I'm helping it, I'm planting a fall food plot. Well, no, you could have planted something in the spring and summer to help improve your soil and not have bare soil leading into it. Bare soil is never a good thing, erosion, and if you don't have something green and growing in there, how can you benefit anything? You're not benefiting the soil and you're not benefiting the wildlife. So that's my rundown. Hopefully you enjoyed. Any questions, comment down below. If you guys are new, subscribe. I'll see you on the next video.